Look at how illustrative this is of the Trump administration. Look at this. Trump is falling asleep behind Pete Hegseth, and Pete Hegseth is trying to use some faux masculine posture by having his fist up while they're both failing to actually end a war they dragged us into. Wow, great job, you two. All right, Donald Trump has effectively assembled the most impressively unimpressive group of bumbling idiots that I have ever seen to take care of our foreign affairs. We have Pete Hegseth, Donald Trump, and Marco Rubio. Marco Rubio is the only semi-respectable person on this stage, and even he has sold his soul for the MAGAification of our country, the Trumpification of the Republican Party. In Doral, Florida, early this morning, Donald Trump and Marco Rubio addressed Latin American leaders, and the ADHD theory of Donald Trump's foreign policy has been confirmed. On the Adam Mockler show, we've talked about how Donald Trump doesn't have any core ideological principles. He doesn't even actually care about Iran or have a plan. He has ADHD, so much narcissism, I would call it mental illness, but we're just going to use the lightest term, ADHD here, that he focuses on country after country after country without actually completing anything. He went from Greenland to Canada to Venezuela to Iran. Now he's already talking about Cuba. At this meeting with Latin American leaders, he said, hey, we'll take care of Cuba. I'll take care of it. And he has hinted that that is going to be the next country. But we are not going to let him off the hook for his prior failed regime changes, wars. I don't even know what to call them at this point. But make sure you drop a like and subscribe to the Adam Mockler feed as we continue to push back against the MAGA BS day by day. We'll talk about Pete Hegseth. We'll talk about Marco Rubio in just 1 second. Pete Hegseth is perhaps the most embarrassing person here. There is a moment where Marco Rubio begins to speak Spanish, and then Pete Hegseth goes, oh, I only speak American. Just the worst person you know. Pete Hegseth speaks and acts like the worst person you know. Let's back up and let's start from the beginning, where Donald Trump begins to talk about Cuba.
But for 50 years I've been hearing, as a little boy, I'd be hearing about Cuba. Cuba's a disaster. But I've been hearing so much about Cuba. But Cuba is in its last moments of life, as it was. It'll have a great new life, but it's in its last moments of life the way it is. And but our focus right now is on Iran, and we'll do that. I would say, what will you do? Take about 2 days off, Marco? No, he won't. Maybe an hour. He'll take 1 hour off, and then he'll finish up a deal on Cuba. That'll be an easy one. But it'll be the entire region that we're doing that. Many of you have come today, and they say, I hope you can take care of Cuba, because you've had problems with Cuba, right? You mentioned. I was surprised, but 4 of you said, actually, could you do us a favor?
This deranged old orange mother effer is already laying the pretext to start another war. He hasn't even finished this war where 6 U.S. service members died. Then we have Donald Trump continuing to rant about Cuba for just 1 moment.
As we achieve a historic transformation in Venezuela, we're also looking forward to the great change that will soon be coming to Cuba. Cuba's at the end of the line. They're very much at the end of the line. They have no money. They have no oil. They have a bad philosophy. They have a bad regime that's been bad for a long time. And they used to get
this guy really seems to have a great understanding of what's going on in Cuba. They have bad philosophy, bad regime. I want to show you the moment that Donald Trump then begins to praise Rubio. He's effusively praising Scott Bessent and Hegseth, but then he just kind of glosses over Kristi Noem and Howard Lutnick and moves on immediately without saying a single nice thing about them. Wait until the end of this.
Scott, thank you very much, Scott. Oh, it has to be a big deal if you're here. Well, he controls the purse strings of the country.
Praising Scott Bessent.
You know, he goes on television and he just soothes everybody. He did it yesterday. The prices were going. He got on. He's a soothing person. He's actually a killer, but I don't want to say that. No, he's a soothing person. He goes on television. Right, Pete? I think nobody better. So we could use him for war every once in a while, soothe. Although we don't really want that kind of a personality for war. We want your personality for war. You're just perfect. Howard Lutnick. Thank you, Howard. Chris Wright. Kristi Noem. Along with U.S. Trade Representative Jameson Greer, who you all know.
This dude does not care about Howard Lutnick or Kristi Noem after he spent the first 45 seconds of this 50-second clip praising Rubio, praising Bessent, saying they were perfect for the administration. Donald Trump then addresses U.S. soldiers killed while fighting Iran. He says, when it comes to war, there's always that. This dude just has no empathy. He has time and time again said, it's like that, it happens. This is the cost.
And they thought they'd be coming home. But they're great heroes in our country, and we're going to keep it that way. There's always, when it comes to war, there's always that. But we're going to keep it to a minimum, I think, Pete, and going to be something, a service that we're really providing, not for the...
First of all, why is his hair pink? Why is his hair just blending in perfectly with his face? This is a very weird display right here. Secondly, U.S. service members are dying needlessly for no reason whatsoever. I then want to show you the moment where Marco Rubio takes the stage, and he begins to talk to the Latin American leaders. We know that Marco Rubio is leading a lot of Donald Trump's foreign policy, especially as it pertains to Venezuela and Cuba. These are lifelong missions of him. That's fine. But when he comes on stage, he begins to speak in Spanish for a little bit. Then Hegseth comes on stage after and says, I only speak American. Just some really dumbass comment. Let's start off with Marco Rubio speaking in English while Donald Trump stands behind him with a disfigured, puffy hand. I'll zoom in for you.
Personal priority. He's also president of action. It's why I believe he will go down as the most historic figure, one of the most historic figures in American history, and certainly of the last 100 years, because of what he has been able to do and is doing right now with the Western Hemisphere. Thank you for your bold leadership. It's an honor to be able to serve in your administration.
Marco Rubio then asks Trump if he can speak in Spanish for just one moment.
Making this a priority is so critical. If I may, because some of these cameras are covering Spanish. You all right about? Oh, good. Please. We don't need an interpreter for this one. Quiero darle las gracias. I think I'm a good interpreter. You'll find out in a second. But las gracias a los países que están aquí hoy. Estos países, primero, el presidente ha hecho esta región una prioridad. Making this a priority is so...
He had to ask for permission from Trump, only for Pete Hegseth to then take the stage and begin to say, I only speak American. He's probably making a cheeky joke, but this is what like the worst person from your Indiana hometown says, at least from my Indiana hometown. That's my experience. But I only speak American, says Pete Hegseth. I said at the beginning of this video that there's like 3 stooges on stage, but honestly, even Marco Rubio is still, I hate to like praise him or whatever, but he's still leagues more impressive than Pete Hegseth. This guy is at least bilingual and doesn't have an alcohol problem. I don't know.
Is he better in Spanish or in English? I think he's better in Spanish. I mean, it's great. Pete, please.
Thank you, sir. Mr. President, I only speak American.
That's right, I speak Cuban.
Oh, the lack of laughs from the audience when Pete Hegseth made that joke, it made me physically cringe. Lord have mercy.
Mr. President, I only speak American.
You could almost hear the crickets. You could almost hear the cricket sounds. Then what Pete Hegseth says after is even more embarrassing.
It's an honor to be here and to establish in this hemisphere peace through strength. For far too long, our country's gaze was only on borders in far-flung places. Not our own border, not our own hemisphere, not the Western Hemisphere. President Trump has established the Trump corollary of the Monroe Doctrine, the Donroe Doctrine. And the War Department is implementing it as fast as we can. In fact, 2 days ago, Mr. President, we launched 18 countries were signatories to the America's Counter Cartel Coalition, ACCC. This
is the dumbest shit ever because they've been arguing for the past 3 months that the Donroe Doctrine means we only touch the Western Hemisphere. Countries in our hemisphere are ours to play around with, whether it's Greenland or Canada. Even that on its face is really dumb. But they're breaking their own doctrine because we're currently going to war with Iran. What are they even talking about? Pete Hegseth then starts to talk about Western Christian civilization.
We don't have to live with communities flooded with drugs or violence or cartels and gangs. We can seal our border, and we have to for our citizens. We share a hemisphere and geography. We share cultures, Western Christian civilization. We share these things together. We have to have the courage to defend it. And we have a commander-in-chief in our country who's set that compass head.
It looked like Donald Trump was falling asleep behind the scenes. I just noticed this. Watch. I'm going to mute Pete Hegseth for just one moment. But Trump's eyes begin to rest. And watch. He begins to genuinely tilt back and forth and kind of just doze off for a minute there. It's really, really funny how sleepy our president is, but funny might not be the word. It's incredibly scary. We're going to continue to cover this on the Adam Mockler channel every single day. Look at how illustrative this is of the Trump administration. Look at this. Trump is falling asleep behind Pete Hegseth, and Pete Hegseth is trying to use some faux masculine posture by having his fist up while they're both failing to actually end a war they dragged us into. Wow, great job, you two.